Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is the NFL wrap-up show. Week 12 is in the books. Your Monday night game just finished a moment ago where you saw Carolina on the road. They're in Levi Stadium in San Francisco. The final there, 49ers 20, Carolina 9, along with Joey Clinkscales, the former general manager, former personnel director, former player. Glad to have you with us, Joey, and Brian LeBel, our NFL analyst and college analyst as well with the NCAA and the NFL. Both of you guys, welcome. We appreciate it. Week 12 is in the books, guys. Joey, I'm going to start with you. 49ers hold on to a lead that they absolutely need to hold on to in terms of staying in the division. The Rams won. We'll talk about them a little bit later. Seattle won. The only loser in the division was Arizona in a close one that went into overtime. But we'll start with you. Talk a little bit about Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, the offense with Kittle. Everything seemed to be doing well enough to be able to hold a lead and take it in the fourth quarter and end up winning the ball game 20-9.
Well, I think Brock Purdy played well enough to eventually he played well enough to win the football game. You know, he had 3 interceptions in the first half, and a couple of those were really bad, just bad throws. So that wasn't great. But he did a good job of managing his nerves in the second half, being patient in the pocket, taking what was there. And obviously, if you have McCaffrey and Kittle's there, you have a good shot of doing some really good things offensively. And the defense played really well tonight. I mean, they're down to that third middle linebacker who's playing, and you wouldn't have known it by the way the defense was flying around and playing. But offensively, Carolina didn't put up a huge threat tonight. Defensively, Carolina, especially their secondary, is really good, and it was a shame for Horn to go out because he had 2 interceptions at the time. And watching him play tonight, you could tell why he's one of the higher paid defensive backs, because I thought he made a couple plays that were really high level, elite level play for a defensive back. But staying on San Francisco, they did enough to win the football game, and that's all you can ask. I mean, the top 3 teams in that division have at least 8 wins, so that's a tough division to play in right now.
And defenses, you brought that up. Not a whole lot of sacks tonight. Bryce Young was sacked once. Purdy got a clean pocket in front of him. Not big yardage, though. I know, Brian, we'll talk to you in a second. Last week, 450 yards just about for Bryce Young. This week, 169, excuse me. 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Brock Purdy had 193 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. Are the defenses catching on right now? Is this the time of the year where they end up making their stand and going, listen, you're going to have to play a lot better than this in order to beat us? Is that what you're seeing, Joey?
I think so. You know, defensively, the teams that are playing pretty good defense this time of year are coming out with wins. And we'll go down the line of some of the games later where that was certainly the case. But in this game, I think the defenses really stood out, especially the 49ers when they had to have plays. They were able to get them. They were able to really neutralize Carolina's running game, which had been a really strong part of their offense this year. So defense, the defense stepped up, and that's really been the case. It was the case most of the weekend.
Yeah, well, you got to keep pace, Brian. Last week you mentioned the incredible week that Bryce Young had, and if there's any stadium that he would love to basically have a pillow and a cot in and play all the time, it would be here in Atlanta. On the road at Levi Stadium, pretty average numbers. They didn't move the ball on the ground very well, only 69 yards, 169 on the passing side. They had a chance here. They had an opportunity when the game started. It was 10-3 at the half to overtake Tampa and claim sole possession in the NFC South. But both teams end up falling, and they're in a virtual tie right now.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina's offense just right now, it's not very good. You know, if you take out the Atlanta game, they haven't been good for a while. They're going to have to figure something out because they're still like you said, they're still in the race for the division, and that's phenomenal. But their defense did more than enough for them to go on the road and win this game. And, you know, they couldn't figure it out. Bryce Young still hasn't quite figured it out with this offense. McMillan had 1 nice catch in the end zone. That was, you know, virtually the only throw of the night where he made where I was like, yeah, that was good. Everything else was subpar or worse. And you go the other side, Purdy was almost just as bad. He had 3 interceptions. Credit to both these defenses because they're very, very good. Both these teams are going to run the ball, rely heavy on the running backs, and then they're going to try to stop you up front. That's how they win. But, you know, talent-wise, I think 49ers are just a little bit better, and you saw that tonight. Obviously, that's why the score was the way it was. But, Carolina's right in the thick of this thing at 6-6, but they got a lot of soul searching to do if they want to either be a playoff team or make a run for it, because this offense is just it's if they're not playing the Falcons, it's just woeful.
Yeah, they're struggling. Joey, before we move on real quick with the 49ers, short week for them, obviously, because of the holiday. Practices are moved around a little bit. They start a little earlier, maybe an hour and a half earlier. But they go to Cleveland. Then they have the Titans in San Francisco. Those could be two fairly easy wins for them. But then they go to the Colts. They've got the Bears and then the Seahawks to close it out. Every one of those three games, at least the way the standings are right now, will be a definite challenge for them.
Well, I'm not going to say Cleveland's going to be an easy win for them because Cleveland can play defense, okay? And they got that monster named Myles Garrett on the other side playing defense. And, if we're being fair, if Cleveland had a better record, he would be my leading candidate for league MVP. I mean, he's got 18 sacks right now.
Isn't that amazing? Yeah, the numbers. And because they're so bad, he's not getting anywhere near the press if he were in Dallas, if he were in San Francisco, or if he were in Los Angeles right now. Imagine that.
I'm just telling you. And we talked about this last week, and I thought he was a top 5, top 3 defensive end in the history of the National Football League. And his stats this year, I think, are going to bear that out by the time it's all said and done, because I would be surprised if he didn't reach the sack record, which is 22 and a half. He's on pace. Before the game, he was on pace for 25 and a half, and I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if he got 28 sacks this year.
Wow. Just reset everything, isn't it? And they're going to double him. We'll get to them in just a little bit. Let's first start off with the show. This is week 12, everybody, and usually we want to begin with the teams that obviously have a bye. If you're in Denver or Miami, if you're a Charger fan, or if you're in Washington, this is a week to just take a deep breath, let you guys get a little bit healthier, and enjoy a day or two off before they go back to work. Thursday night, though, for those that played there, short week there for Buffalo and for the Texans. Joey, I'm going to start with you on this one. 7-4 after the game. The final was 23-19. The Texans ended up winning at home. They're 6-5 right now. But if you look at the box score, you're thinking Josh Allen had 253 yards. He was the leading passer. James Cook had 110 yards, or 116, excuse me. He's the leading rusher. Khalil Shakir had 8 receptions for 110 yards. All Buffalo. You think they won this game handily. They didn't. Not a clean pocket. No touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 8 sacks for Josh Allen. Miles Davis, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He only threw for 153 yards, but that was enough to get the 23 points that they needed. Joey, we'll start with you. It wasn't a must-win, but it was a real decisive win. Houston really needed this one, didn't they?
Well, I'm going to correct you for a second. It was Davis Mills and not Miles Davis. I like to see Miles Davis playing, but it was Davis Mills, the quarterback for the Texans.
Brilliant slip. Dave, I'd like to listen to Miles Davis play
there you
football.
go. I like Miles Davis as well.
My
But
apologies.
you know what? Again, defense carried today. I'm really concerned with Buffalo, to be quite honest with you. They were really expected to run away with this, not only this division, but really the AFC in general, and they have struggled. And every time Josh Allen turns the ball over, they really have a tough time. Defensively, they didn't play bad, but when you allow 8 sacks, those two guys, those two pass rushers for the Texans, Anderson and the other kid, I can't think of his name right now, they really cause havoc. And the interior linemen, they play really well. It exposed a lot of flaws in what Buffalo's doing right now, because despite Shakir having that many yards, 110, I believe, they really struggle with having a number one big play receiver. Their number one tight end is out, so Knox is their guy now, and he's not nearly the vertical threat as the other guy who's out. They're really having some problem. That offensive line hasn't played great a lot this year. They've been pretty good, but they haven't played great, and they were really exposed this game versus the Texans.
Brian, your thoughts here on this one? Obviously, important game for the Bills. They fall short. And Texans again go to 6-5. They're trying to keep pace with Indianapolis and Jacksonville in the division. There's a lot going on here, but a short week. And if you're in Houston, are you saying we've got a problem if you're in Buffalo?
I'm going to put this more on the Texans. I think their defense is up front. They may have the best unit in football. They're very, very good. They get after you. They were wreaking havoc all night. Josh Allen was kind of banged up from the offset. I think he took kind of an awkward tackle early on in this game, and it was hit after hit after hit. They beat up on a Buffalo O-line that's not really that bad either. You wouldn't think 8 sacks would be some sort of astronomical number, but the Texans went out in the offseason. They invested heavily in this defense, right? They drafted high. They traded up. They've done a lot in the last 2 years to solidify this front seven. D'Amico Ryans has done a great job coaching them up. They knew what the situation was, right? You're down your starting quarterback. The offense is in a position where, we're maybe not as clean, as precise as we should be. And obviously without CJ Stroud, but they figured it out. Davis Mills played good enough to win, and the defense obviously did more than enough for them to win the game. And they stifled a good Buffalo team. Josh Allen, obviously MVP of the league, guys fantastic. And there were instances where on Thursday night he looked lost out there.
Well, interesting for Buffalo. They're still 7-4. They're not out of it. They were 4-0. Then they've been 3-4 in their last 7 games, and they're struggling a little bit. And they got to protect their quarterback a little better. Next game we're going to look at, guys. We're going to go to Chicago, where the Bears are 8-3. Yes, I said last week. I raised my hand. I go, I'm surprised. Joey, we'll start with you. Pittsburgh falls to 6-5. Bears at home get a nice win, 31-28. It was close. It was kind of enough scoring to where it was fun for the fans to be a part of it. But Chicago is in sole possession of first place there. Joey, we'll start with you.
Well, it's interesting. Mason Rudolph played a decent game. It wasn't perfect by any stretch. 1 touchdown, 1 interception, only 171 yards. Gainwell was their most explosive player for the Steelers, despite them not being able to run the ball real effectively at times when they needed to. But defensively, they struggled again. And it wasn't because Caleb Williams was playing that great. He had stretches where he did some really good things. But defensively, they had a lot of holes in coverage. They aren't a very good man-to-man team. The Steelers are really a zone-based team, and there are a lot of holes in that zone. And quite honestly, Chicago looked like the better team for most of the game, despite the game being nipped up most of the time.
It's been years, Brian, since Chicago's been relevant, and what a quick change. There are a lot of guys that are considered for Coach of the Year. I'm at least putting someone in the room. You see these kids, they're playing hard. They are having a great time. They're doing something that they haven't been able to do for years from a collective standpoint, and they're in first place there at 8-3. Good time to be in Chicago. Yeah,
I mean, Ben Johnson's formula was, hey, I'm going to take what we did in Detroit. We're going to try to replicate it here. They felt like they had the receiver room to do it. They obviously brought in they had a phenomenal tight end. They bring in Colston Loveland, who's really kind of coming to his own the last couple of weeks. He's become a very reliable target for Caleb. I think his completion percentage, everything's gone up. He looks more comfortable in the pocket because of that. He made an early mistake, I think, trying to do a little too much. TJ Watt got him in the end zone. And, if you take that play away, the Bears defense, which was kind of dogged on in the early portion of the season, they've really improved. I know you guys talked about defenses catching up and figuring things out. They only gave 21 points, which to Mason Rudolph, it's nothing really to write home about. But when you can score like they're scoring right now, and you can hold teams, in the 20s, you're able to score 30 points at home, you're going to have a phenomenal chance to win football games. And the Bears are just, it's not the prettiest, right? They're not dominating teams, but they're winning football games, and they're in first place. They're 8-3, right? So they're in the conversation for the bye in the NFC right now after week 12, which is kind of crazy. I don't think anybody would put them there at the beginning of the season. But like you said, a lot of credit to Ben Johnson. Steelers are kind of in win now mode. They must win because the Ravens have caught up to them all of a sudden on the flip side of things. Hopefully they get healthy and Rodgers plays next week. But the Chicago team's looking kind of scary, especially if they can host a playoff game. That's a tough place to go play in and get a win, especially in January in the cold.
Well, the respect due to Ben Johnson and the job he's done speaks for itself. Let's go to the next game and talk a little bit about Mike Vrabel. Brian, we'll stay with you. 10-2 right now. Drake May passed for just 6 yards under 300. He had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He was sacked 1 time. They rushed for 107. And then they go against this Joe Flacco guy that just doesn't seem to go away. Last play of the game, I'm looking for a flag. I think all things being equal, they just weren't going to do it. But they rushed for 120 yards, did Cincinnati. They had a chance there at the end, but the Patriot defense slowed them up just enough. Talk a little bit about this game, and are you surprised at 10-2 that Mike Vrabel is where he is in terms of the New England Patriots and their status there in the AFC?
Well, I think the Vrabel mantra was, hey, we're going to try to be as close to Belichick as we can. And, we talk about Brady, you talk about the offenses, whatever, but the staple of the Patriots really was their defense. They were very, very good up front. They had ball hawks in the secondary when they had all that success. And they don't have the names right now, but they're playing phenomenally as a unit. They had a defensive touchdown again on Sunday. They're near the top of the league in defensive touchdowns, if I'm not mistaken. They generate a lot of points on that end. And when you're really, really good and you can make those plays, you can stifle the other team and you can kind of go 2 for 1 on possessions. You get after the quarterback. It takes a lot of pressure off your young quarterback who played almost flawlessly. He had the pick 6 early in the game, but Drake May has played phenomenally. I don't think he's MVP right now. I don't think he's where Taylor is. I don't think he's where Stafford is. But if it was the Heisman Trophy, he'd be invited to the ceremony, right? He'd be sitting there up front because he's played well enough to earn that. This Cincinnati team is scrappy. You mentioned Flacco, Chase Brown running the ball really, really well. They didn't have Jamar Chase. T. Higgins gets knocked out late in that game with a concussion too. But this isn't a bad football team. But the Patriots, you go on the road anytime in the conference, it's tough to do. And they're close ones, but the Patriots just keep churning out win after win after win, and you got to give a ton of credit to Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, and the coaching staff there in Cincinnati, they're pretty adamant that Burrow could be back. They don't want to rush it. But, Joey, what's your perspective on this in terms of he's coming back? We could really use him. We got an outside chance right now. It's slim, but it's not quite none. They got to win every game in order to be considered. But your perspective here on Joe Burrow coming back. Flacco, again, 183 yards. They rushed for 120. Mike Gesicki at 35 yards. I've had 61, 197 through the air. They're just struggling in so many different ways. They really could use a burst.
Yes, and I think with Burrow coming back, I think that will give them a lift. I think he's scheduled to play Thursday night because they play a Thursday night game. So I think he will play. He will start, which I think will be good for them. Normally, if with a 3-win team this late in the season, I would say he should probably sit out. But, in that division, they still have a fighting chance. So they could go on a run. They really could with Joe Burrow because they can run the ball. Now, T. Higgins will be out this week. Chase will be back, and T will be out because of the concussion.
Yeah.
So they'll still be a little bit shorthanded. But they have offensively, they have enough to score points offensively. The defense is still suspect at times, which is problematic. But you like a lot of things about Joe. Joe wants to come back and play, and that's telling you about the kind of football character that he has. And look, if I'm Cincinnati and we win 3 or 4 games, then we're going to keep Joe playing. If in the next 3 weeks, if we are 1-3 and we're completely out of it, then I'm probably sitting Joe because I don't want Joe to get hurt, get re-injured. He's our franchise guy. He's had injury problems, especially with that offensive line that can be suspect at time if you're not getting the ball out of your hands. So that's my thought on Cincinnati. On the Patriots, really, if it ended today, they would be the number 1 and number 2 seat in the AFC. And if it ended today, I don't think there's any question that Vrabel would be coach of the year. They were a 3 or 4 win team last year, and they're already at 10 wins. So I think Vrabel, despite the job that Ben Johnson doing, I think Vrabel is the coach of the year.
Well, they're 10-2 right now. They've got the Giants, Bills at home. They go to the Ravens. They go to the Jets, and then they finish up with the Dolphins. That game with the schedule being what it is hasn't been determined yet, but it's right there in front of them. It's absolutely right in front of them. They can make a tremendous stand and bring in a new generation of fans that have said, no, Belichick, no, Brady, or that's all we've got right now. Really? No, we got a pretty good team right here. You need to root for us and do so in a way that you honor the guys that are playing here right now. They're doing a great job. 10-2 New England. They beat Cincinnati 26-20. Next game we're going to look at. Surprise here, guys. This one goes to overtime. The Giants and Detroit, for a lot of reasons. I thought the Giants would lay an egg, but they came and they fought and they played hard, and it really took a comeback effort. Joe, I'm going to start with you. 34-27 is the final, but if it wasn't for a very late field goal and a tremendous Gibbs touchdown run, this could have been a lot different for Detroit. They're 7-4. They're still only a game behind Chicago, but they're behind Chicago.
Well, let me start with the Giants because you get the Jameis Winston experience. Sometimes it's the highs of highs, sometimes it's the highs of low. And this week he played really well. I mean, hey, the guy threw a touchdown pass, he caught a touchdown pass, they ran flea flickers, they did everything, and they were really competitive, and they really had a chance to win this game. And they ended up obviously firing their defense coordinator today. So he's out. I mean, I think in the fourth quarter they've lost 5 leads, and they decided it was enough for seeing him. So along with firing the head coach a couple weeks ago, they fired the defense coordinator today. But ultimately, we're going to give Detroit the credit they deserve here because.
Well, real quick, stick with that for just a second.
Sure.
What does that do to your locker room when you've got absolute havoc right now? Everybody knows that they're on super thin ice, and the temperature's getting warmer every minute. What does that do for not just the players in the locker room, but when you look around the coaches? Hey, all our guys are hurt. I can't prevent the boat from taking on more water. Why am I getting fired? Is there any justification in the coaching staff going, you got to let us play, man. You got to get us through the year first?
Well, this is what I would say. I would say from a coaching perspective, I think all the coaches usually know when the head coach is gone, the staff is gone. Okay. Yeah. So at that point, you just throw your ears back and you do the things you think from a defense coordinator and offensive coordinator position, the things you think you need to do to help the team win. Because not only are you auditioning for the next coach to come in who may want to keep you on the staff, you're actually auditioning for another job, hoping you can catch on with another staff.
Sure. Yeah.
But ultimately, despite the injuries, I mean, we look at what Detroit did with injuries. We look at what the Niners did with injuries. Ultimately, your record is your resume. Okay, so when you sit down talking to a head coach about a coordinator's position, and he's saying, "Well, what happened with these 5 games that you were leading in the fourth quarter and you lost all of them?" Okay, what happened here? And you can blame it on personnel, but a lot of it is scheme. Okay, you have to be able to do the things that your personnel allows you to do. Okay, if you know that you're soft in the secondary, then you really can't afford to run a lot of man cover concepts and those kind of things. So your scheme may have to change in the middle of a year because of injuries, but you have to figure out what's best, the best course of action to help your team win football games. And obviously, defensively, they hadn't done that. And arguably, their defensive line is one of the top 3 or 4 defensive lines in the NFL.
Yeah. Brian was talking about that earlier. I interrupted you, though, so please finish with your thoughts on Detroit.
Well, hey, Detroit can really run the ball. I mean, Gibbs is a difference maker. I mean, he's explosive in the old Barry Sanders mode, in the Saquon Barkley mode. I mean, he's electric with the ball in his hand, whether it's catching a pass out of the backfield or whether it's a home run during in overtime on the first play, whatever it takes, he's explosive. And I think Detroit, I think when the head coach took over play calling duties, I think it opened up everybody from an offensive standpoint. Now, the game management took a dive, because I don't think he's able to manage the game well from a clock management standpoint. But from an offensive play calling standpoint, I think he's done a good job of opening up that offense.
Yeah. Video game numbers for me, Brian. Jamar Gibbs, 15 carries for 219 yards. He's averaging 14.6. He had 2 touchdowns yesterday. Jared Goff had 279. So, it's just a 60-yard difference between the two of them, between your leading passer and your leading rusher. But great game. And you know what? You call on him, and he delivers when you absolutely need him to there in overtime.
Yeah, if you're the Lions, the offensive output was great. Goff had the one interception, which was really the only mistake they made. They were great throughout the entire afternoon. The Giants' defense, like I said, they had a great front. They're phenomenal up front. It's just they for whatever reason the secondary doesn't seem to be very good. They're not tremendous against the run, and that might have been some scheme stuff, like Joey said. That might have been why they decided it was time to let the defensive coordinator go. But on the flip side of this thing, there were a lot of third and long plays that the Giants converted. And that's kind of alarming to me if I'm Detroit, because listen, we got to beat the Packers. We got to beat the Eagles. We got to beat these teams. And when I got Jameis Winston out here, he's throwing for 360. I mean, he was lighting them up. He's extending plays. They couldn't get after him. A win's a win in the NFL, and that's spectacular. But they almost lost this game. Jake Bates squeezes in a late field goal. I think it was a 58-yarder, something like that. But it was very, very close. Giants gave the Lions everything they could handle. They were, shorthanded to say the least, right? Their entire offensive backfield is backups and backups of backups. But the one thing I will say about the Lions, though, they've tried to go 50-50 on the Montgomery and Gibbs thing, right? They want to keep Jameer as healthy as possible. They want to keep him as fresh as possible. But the offense just looks so much cleaner and so much crisper when Jameer's on the field and you have that home run explosiveness. I think they need to lean a little bit more on him. I think Dan Campbell's starting to realize that a little bit, and it paid dividends for them on Sunday. He was an absolute monster, and it's just very quietly, I think he's one of the best players in the league. I don't think he's up there with Taylor. I don't think he's up there with some of the big name guys like maybe Jamar Chase yet, but his numbers, they speak for themselves.
Yeah, and then maybe when Montgomery comes in to give just enough rest to where you need him in overtime, you get the result like you did with a big touchdown. Giants fall to 2-10 again in overtime. They are 0-7 on the road. Lions are 4-1 at home, and they are 7-4, and they keep pace with the Bears. 34-27 is the final there. Next game we're going to go to is the Packers are at home in Lambeau. They end up winning 23-6 against the Vikings. Vikings fall to 4-7. Packers are 7-3-1. Brian, we watched this one together. We were had the red zone package. And they just basically wanted to turn it off. The network said, forget it. Let's go watch another game that's a little more exciting. JJ's hurt. He's out. They're kind of saying he may not play right now. Give me an update there on any medical stuff that you may know. But first and foremost, the Packers are Jordan Love was 139 yards. Not a whole lot there, but you know what? They get a win, and that's the most important thing.
It's interesting because this is a team that relies heavily on the run, right? The Packers want to run the football. That's why they went out and they got Josh Jacobs, and he's been spectacular for them since his arrival. But there was a question mark because this is a Flores defense, right? They're really good up front. You're going to see a bunch of different schemes. They're going to put guys all over the place. They're going to try to confuse you. But they were able to bring in Jacobs misses the game, obviously, with a knee injury. I'm not sure when he'll be back. He's a little banged up, but they're able to get their backups and kind of go running back by committee. And they still had a ton of success, which helps Jordan Love out because especially since Tucker Kraft's injury a few weeks ago, this passing game it hasn't had the same oomph. Not a lot of zip, not a lot of verticality to it. They're still trying to kind of figure it out. I know they're playing the cold in Lambeau, but the only plus side is that the Vikings were 100 times worse. J.J. McCarthy looks really, really bad right now. I don't know if he is still banged up. I don't know what the idea is going to be going forward for them, but 87 yards over the course of a football game is just not going to get it done. And you're not seeing a lot of improvement week to week. The Vikings, they're now 4-7. They're kind of out of the thing. And this is a team that won 14 games last year. So it's ugly. You hate to see it, but the quarterback situation in Minnesota right now is a mess.
It is a mess. And I'm going to ask you, Joey, is it because it's a mess that they didn't play well, or is it a mess because the Packers defense is pretty stinking good and we're just quietly observing this every week? Or is there a combination of that and something else that you can think of? What's your thought here on Green Bay's defense right now?
Well, I think it's a combination of everything. I think Green Bay's defense is pretty good. I mean, I think they can do a lot of things schematically. They can rush the passer. They're decent tacklers on defense. They have speed. They're physical. They have a defense coordinator that like to mix it up a lot. So I think defensively they're pretty good. However, I'm really not impressed, and I haven't been for the most part with J.J. McCarthy. With every game that he plays, it appears that he was overdrafted. Okay, because nothing in his pedigree in his past would tell you he should have been the 10th pick of the draft. And I think I mentioned that last week when we talked about Minnesota.
But wait, Joey, he's got a big arm. He's 6'5". He won a national championship. He knows how to play under the most difficult of circumstances in the college game. That easily transfers over into the NFL, doesn't it?
Do you know which position has the most misses coming out of college to pro football?
Oh, that'd be QB.
That'd be QB. And I'm not saying this guy's a miss. I don't think his arm is that big. I think he's got a pretty good arm. He's athletic. He came from a run-centric offense at Michigan. They weren't dependent on J.J. McCarthy to win games by throwing the ball vertically down the field. I mean, he was a part of that engine. He was a cog in that engine. He wasn't the motor. He wasn't the straw that stirred the soup per se. That wasn't his role at Michigan, and to try to make that his role in the NFL is going to get frustrating for a guy like Justin Jefferson, who is he had 48 yards this week. I think he was like 70 yards last week or whatever. I mean, it's at some point frustration is going to boil over, and it's all because of the decision that the organization made at quarterback.
Well, the Vikings fall to 4-7. Green Bay again moves up to 7-3-1. They're a game out, but game and a half, I guess, behind the Bears with 5 weeks to go. Next game we're going to look at, folks, 8-3. Seattle's 8-3, folks. Seattle Seahawks, they're back, and their defense is playing real well. They end up beating the Titans 30-24 in a game that really wasn't that close. A lot of late points there. Titans scored 21 second half points. They end up with 24 overall. They're 0-6 at home. Seattle is 5-1 away. That to me is a very impressive number. Joey, I'll start with you. Seahawks, we've kind of been we're not putting them on the pedestal with the gold medal, but they're on the pedestal. They may have a silver or bronze right now. They had a tough loss against Los Angeles last week, but they bounced back nicely on the road.
Yeah, watching that game Tennessee didn't play bad at all. They really didn't. And I give them credit for a one-win team. They're young. They're fighting every week. They're a tough out for everybody that plays the Titans, especially when they come home to play. That being said, Seattle is a really solid, sound football team, and Darnold is playing well. Smith and Jigma is, elite.
Yeah,
we're just gonna call it like it is. He's an elite receiver in our league. They do some really good things defensively. They have a really good defensive line. But Tennessee, again, Cam Ward did not play bad at all, and for maybe the third or fourth, or maybe even fifth time this year, not only did he lead them in passing, he led them in rushing, which tells you kind of where they are as a team. And obviously, they fired their head coach early in the season, so they're playing with the interim head coach. And again, like we said earlier, jobs are on the line as far as the staff is concerned.
Is it too early to tell if Cam was overdrafted himself? I'm just throwing this analogy out there. I think he's playing well on a really bad team, but he's playing well. Imagine if he were on a good team and he didn't have to play and do so many things with his own legs, with his own arm, because he doesn't have people around him to protect his pocket or his downfield throwing. But he's doing it well. I'm impressed with the young man. He's been the starter since day one, and I'm rooting for him.
I'll say this. From a skill set perspective, everything you thought you were getting, you see on the field.
Okay.
Now, you may not see it enough because, again, outside, they don't have a threat outside. They don't have a threat. So every time you line up, he's not going to face a ton of exotic coverages unless somebody's trying to bait him into making a bad throw, which happens. But they don't have to double the outside guys. They don't have to give anybody special attention when you play Tennessee from an offensive perspective.
And they traded all their good players away to get draft picks.
Yeah, at the trade deadline they're trying to get draft picks again to build toward 27, I believe, 27 and 28. I really think they're building toward 28 when they're in the new arena, in the new building. That's my personal belief. But again, Cam Ward has played pretty well. And again, the skill set you thought you were getting, you see from him. He will overdo things because that's what young quarterbacks do. They try to do too much sometimes. But he's really not playing bad at all.
Brian, the Seahawks 8-3. They got to keep pace with the 49ers and the Rams. They do. I think they're quietly marching forward. They had the game pretty much won at the half. They didn't relinquish a lot of points. They did give up a touchdown in the fourth quarter to make it a little bit closer. A 13-point lead was pretty good for them. Give me your thoughts here on Seattle and what you're impressed with. Darnold coming back after a bad week. He played well enough to at least earn a little more respect this week, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, the defense is night and day, though. I don't think Tennessee is going to be able to hold a candle to what the Rams are doing defensively right now. But yeah, it's to bounce back is good, right? To come off a bad performance and the mindset. I love a couple of his teammates afterwards. I can't remember who it was, but they said, "Hey, we got his back. He's had us in every game. We're not going to dog him. He's been spectacular for us." And it's true, he has, and he did enough coming into this game. I don't need you to be Superman. We're playing a bad team. We can score. Just go out there, take what's given you, hit the open guys. The numbers were great. Didn't turn the ball over, which is a tremendous turnaround. Seattle's defense is what it is. They're monsters up front. They kept them in the game last week against a very good Rams team. If they can clean it up a little bit, I think the Seahawks can play with anybody. And then on the flip side, I like what you guys were saying about Cam Ward. I think the numbers don't really speak to his growth, right? I know we've kind of dogged J.J. McCarthy. We've kind of seen some of the other stuff, but I think Cam from week one to where he is right now is night and day. I think he's a much better player. I think he's behind the 8 ball every week too, because they're down 2 or 3 scores going into the third quarter. He's got to drop back 50 times, and he's got to play against some daunting fronts, right? Calvin Ridley, Joey, you mentioned it. They don't have their top receiver right now. He's throwing to second rounders, third rounders, practice squad guys. They're throwing it together, and he's not complaining. He's getting better each and every week, and it's bad right now if you're a Tennessee fan, but they're trending in the right direction. This kid's very, very good. If you watch his tape last year at Miami especially, there's a reason why they were the top offense in college football. Kind of the opposite of what we were saying with J.J. McCarthy. I really like what the kid's doing. I think he's got a bright future. And like you said, a couple years from now, they got to get some talent around him, but a couple years from now, this Tennessee team, if he's at the helm and they can draft well, they got a chance to be pretty good.
2,210 yards right now. He's 18th in the league, which is just right around the middle of the pack, right? 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions on a horrible team. So those numbers aren't going to impress anybody, at least not right now. If you compare it to Stafford or even Mahomes or any of the other guys, he's nowhere close. But he's a rookie, and he's on a bad team. He was the number 1 pick overall. They were a bad team last year. That's why they got the number 1 pick. And be patient, folks. Give this young man a chance. I think he's really going to impress everybody. All right, next game we're going to talk about. Let's move on from this. Another overtime game. There were 3 yesterday. Wow, the Colts had this one. And Kansas City's back, guys. Joey, I'll start with you. Great game if you're a Chiefs fan. We're not dead. We were Frankenstein's monster for a few weeks. We were just kind of roaming around and letting everybody know how scary we were. We weren't doing anything, but now they're putting the pedal to the metal.
Well, watching the game yesterday, I was with some guys, and we were watching the game, and I said at the end of the game, I'm like, if you give Mahomes the ball at the end of the game, you can kiss Christmas goodbye. You might as well buy a T-shirt that's going to say F around and find out. That's what a T-shirt going to say, F around and find out. And guess what?
When they had the ball last 18 minutes of the ball game is unbelievable. That last drive lasted forever. It took 45 minutes of real time to get those 8 minutes out of the clock. But
that's right. Hey,
Colts couldn't stop
around and found out what Patrick Mahomes, the Patrick Mahomes experience is like toward the end of the game.
Gosh, they sack him, they get him running around, and then he finds someone wide open on a deep corner or a crossing route, and first down. Unbelievable how good he is. 23-20 is the final. First, let's start with the Colts. They fall to 8-3, which it's not a bad fall. And they lose to a good team on the road. What's your head coach telling the team if you're in Indianapolis right now?
Well, I think if you're in Indianapolis right now, we lost to a team whose back was against the wall. Kansas City, this was, I don't want to call it a must-win game, but it almost was, because they needed to win this game from a confidence standpoint, because they were a team last year who won all these close games. This year they lost all of them until yesterday, when they figured out that we're going to find a way to win a game that we need to win. So from the coach standpoint, they came in, they really abandoned the run game a lot. They really should have fed Jonathan Taylor the ball a lot more, especially when things were really going their way. He needed to have the ball in his hands a lot more. I think Kansas City said, you know what, we're gonna stop the run. We've seen Daniel Jones for 6 years in New York. We know what he can do. I don't care what he's done since he's been in Indianapolis. We're going to stop Jonathan Taylor, and we're going to make Daniel Jones beat us. And he wasn't able to do that yesterday.
Patrick Mahomes, Brian, throws for 352 yards. No touchdowns. He had an interception. Kareem Hunt had 104 yards. Rice had 141 yards. Those are your guys. Kelsey's been quietly getting himself ready for his engagement and his wedding, but he's still a guy to do it. But it looks like Mahomes is finding others to take advantage of what they need. But their defense showed up yesterday, and they stopped. They only gave up 6 points in the third quarter, none in the fourth, and none in overtime. So it's pretty good to see the Chiefs defense back if you're a Kansas City fan.
I think Mahomes' first throw was intercepted, and it got returned to the 2-yard line, and instantly the Colts are up 7-0. But if you take that out of the equation, the Chiefs defense, they only gave 13 points all day. I think there was a stat. I think they gave up 16 yards in the fourth quarter. I think that the Colts' last 4 possessions are 3 and out. Defense did everything they could to win that game. Andy Reid kind of said, listen, let's maybe take some pressure off our quarterback. They ran the ball with Kareem Hunt. He had 30 carries in this game. That's I don't think he's had 30 carries since college. But it's sprinkle it around when you need to. Rice, he's kind of, he's still getting back into it. He had the suspension. He's still not 100%. He had a ton of, yards after the catch. He showed some flashes. They're able to get some verticality in this offense, which is something they've been lacking for a little bit as well. Mahomes didn't have the touchdown. You have a ton of yards. They really committed to stopping Jonathan Taylor. And I'm more impressed with this win too, because the Colts are coming off a bye. This is a very good football team off a bye. The Chiefs have their back against the wall, but it's just the story for the last half a decade plus in the league has been Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. It's just they find a way to win games. And this was a 20-9 game. And I believe it was the start of the fourth quarter, and the Chiefs just they did everything they needed to do. They made plays when they needed to make them, and they you score 14 unanswered points and you find a way to win the game.
Yeah. And I just found a way to use verticality in a sentence, and I know exactly what you mean. I probably would have done the same thing. Verticality is my new let's go deep and make things happen. Well, Kansas City stays alive, folks. They're not gone yet. Don't discount them. It's not going to be easy, but they're still in the playoff hunt. Colts are 8-3 right now, and they still lead the division. Next game is Jets go to Baltimore. I'll be doggone, Joey. Baltimore is showing me something. Harbaugh might be a guy that you would want for a coach of the year. They get through a few injuries. You get Derrick Henry back. You get your quarterback back. Your defense starts playing a little bit better, and then you go on this little win streak. 23-10 is 23-10 is the final. 6-5 for the Ravens. They are tied with the Chiefs. They got 5 games remaining. Give me your thoughts here on what Baltimore's doing.
Well, they played an efficient brand of football. It started off kind of slow. The Jets, again, they fight. They're tough. They fought. Tyrod Taylor started at quarterback, so they were able to move the ball a little bit. But for the most part, the Ravens got back to Ravens-type football. They were able to run the ball. They were physical when they needed to be physical. They really didn't turn the ball over a whole lot.
Right.
Derrick Henry had 21 carries for not a lot of yards, but they were committed to the run. And then if you can commit to the run, then it opens up play action. It opens up a lot of different aspects of the football game, which they were able to do with a lot of efficiency.
Well, I'm on the Ravens bandwagon. I think they're going to be a threat. They're not perfect, but at least they've fought back from the dead, Brian. They were all but being buried alive. But 6-5, it's a great comeback story, if nothing else. Derrick Henry, only 64 yards. He was the leading rusher in the game, but he's still relevant. He had 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to rely on that run game because if you watch him, I don't think Lamar's 100% yet. I think he's close. I think he's, I don't think he's injured, but he's not quite back to his normal self. You can kind of see that with the numbers. The explosiveness isn't there. He's not taking off and running as much, right? It's just you're not seeing the same brand of Lamar Jackson. But that, then again, the thought process is, hey, we're playing the Jets. We think we're better than this team. Let's run the ball. Let's control the clock. Let's make them beat us offensively because they don't have a lot of guys right now. Garrett Wilson's out. Justin Fields, he's injured, but I don't think they really know what they're going to do with the quarterback situation. They got healthy on the front four on defense. I think that's the most underrated part of this team over the last month is, we dogged on them a lot. They were getting absolutely torched week in and week out. They couldn't stop anybody. Everyone was, if you had a player in fantasy going up against the Baltimore Ravens, you were, you're jumping up and down for joy because they couldn't stop anyone defensively. And They make some adjustments, like Joey said. They figure out what we do well, what we don't do well. Maybe we need to scheme a little bit differently, and maybe we need to shorten up the game and run the ball a little more. And it helps when you get the MVP of the league back, Lamar Jackson. But very quietly, they're 6-5, and they're in first place in the division again. They got the Bengals on a short week this week, and they can almost mathematically eliminate them from the equation. But don't be surprised if this is a team in January hosting a playoff game.
Yeah, if I'm a Baltimore fan, I'm just doing this right now. Shh, just wait, just be patient. We're not quite there yet, but pretty soon we'll be able to say we're back if things go our way. Next game is a couple of teams that only had 2 wins. Cleveland goes on the road to Las Vegas. Joey, this is one of those ones. Shedeur finally gets a start. He was announced as the starter. Dylan Gabriel's coming back from a concussion protocol. He wasn't going to play. And 14 first quarter points. They end up winning 24-10. And as you mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, it's real nice to have this guy named Garrett, something, whatever his last name is. We'll hear a little bit more about him, I guess. But my goodness, the defense played well enough to really stifle and make the Raiders look like they had no idea what they were doing.
Well, I'll start with Cleveland's offense. I think Shedeur did a really good job from a standpoint of not doing too much to try to win the game. You know what I mean? He was really efficient. And the thing that I like about his game, he made a couple plays that the other quarterbacks on their roster can't make. Right. When he scrambled out to the right and threw the ball, 50 yards down the field for a touchdown. We haven't seen another quarterback on their roster do that all year. He's in the game. I think he had 3 plays over 30 yards, and they had 1 all season coming into that game. So I think he's got the makings. If he can do a couple things better, become a lot more efficient when he needs to, and in his press conferences use the word "we" instead of "I." I think that's going to be important, especially with the offensive line.
I do too. I appreciate you saying that because even as a front office guy, wait a second, what's he doing? I appreciate the humility in doing that. He has been an I guy in the past. And that's fine, but now it's a we. Thank you for noticing something like that. I mean, I didn't hear that specifically, but that makes an impression on me.
Yeah, and when you do that, you're able to run the ball better. And again, they took him out on the goal line, and people were upset why they do that. But in my opinion, that was the game plan. They knew that they could run the ball up the middle on the Jets, so they took Shedeur out, they put Junkins in. And guess what? They just ran. They just ran up the middle, and Junkins scores twice.
2 touchdowns.
So I have 0 issue with that. And guess what? You'll have plenty of time to see what kind of player Shedeur Sanders is throughout the course of the rest of the season. So I think the way they managed the game with him offensively was really good. I mean, if he keeps playing like this, the question would be, why didn't you go to this sooner? Okay. What took you so long to get to this point?
Real quick before we go to Brian, talk about the Raiders. What's going on there in Las Vegas right now?
Before I do that, the league MVP, if he were on a winning team, would be Myles Garrett. I mean, I can't say enough good things about Myles Garrett. I think he's a special talent. And week in and week out, he's showing you that. I mean, through 11 games, he's got 18 sacks.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's unheard of.
Do me a favor. I'm not asking for a scouting report, but for someone who knows about him well enough to be able to at least have the conversation with the buddy or at the water cooler there at work, give me something that really sticks out in your mind's eye to where he is so much different. He's an MVP caliber guy. There are a lot of other defensive ends, and a few of them have double-digit sacks, but why is he different? What makes him special in your mind's eye?
Well, he's got elite level. He's got 3 or 4 things elite level where most guys have one thing elite level. He's
Okay.
got elite get off. He's got elite power. He's got elite bend. Okay, those 3 things are hard to counter. You know, you can double him. He beats doubles. He's
Yep.
quick enough off the ball to where if the tackle oversets, he's able to get outside and go underneath. If the tackle's late off the ball, he's able to get around him. But at the top of his rush, he's able to dip that shoulder, bend, and explode out of that cut, which is rare. I mean, you know, if I'm comparing him to T.J. Watt, T.J. Watt doesn't play near the same power that this guy has. T.J. has pretty good get off. He's got pretty good bend, but it's nothing like Myles Garrett. I mean, to me, you're making the difference between a Mercedes and a Ferrari. That's kind of the difference when you're talking about Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with the Mercedes, right? But
No,
the Ferrari is
not at all.
It's a completely different animal.
That's
and
exactly right.
You can take that out on an open track, and then you'll know the difference.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you saying that. His power, his motor, his small waist thing. I played with Reggie White. Now I also know what LT it looks like on the other side of the field. I've seen that. He doesn't have LT speed, but
well, I'm gonna disagree with that. I mean, Myles Garrett, if we're talking about flat out speed, his 40 time was probably better than LT's. If we're going to be, I mean, I remember going to Texas A&M and timing him, and he was in the low 4.6s, high 4.5, depending on which clock you got. I mean, so he's special for that size. I mean, everybody wants to talk about a unicorn. He's a unicorn at that position.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Brian, first your thoughts on Myles before we go to the game itself.
He's going to get the sack record if he stays healthy. And nobody's talking about it. Like we said, like Joey said, if he's on a good team, if he's on the Cowboys, you're seeing him everywhere. He's everywhere. You can't get enough of Myles Garrett, but unfortunately he's stuck in Cleveland right now. But I'm not going to say unfortunately because they're paying him some $42 million a year to be there right now. So I think he's okay, right? I think he's going to wake up okay being 3-8 with the Browns. But if they can get the talent around Shedeur, if they find out that Shedeur is their guy, if they can bring in a couple of receivers. I like their tight end room. I think they're pretty good up front, but they got a lot of growing to do. They're a young football team. They need to figure out what they're going to do as far as offensively, how they want to build. And, you can build around 95, really. He gives you a chance to win every single game. It's like Joey said, he's a unicorn. He's unstoppable. It's ridiculous. And the Raiders got a full and healthy dose on Sunday. Not a lot to say about the Raiders, I'll be honest. Some bad football going on there. They fired Chip Kelly, I believe it was today, if I'm not mistaken. But they got a lot of soul searching to do. Yeah. But future looks kind of bright, actually, for the Browns. They got a lot of young talent. I think they can infuse some more. They're finally recovering from the Deshaun Watson thing. I think it's the $81 million cap hit next year, and then it's over with. But, hopefully brighter days and greener pastures are ahead for the Cleveland Browns going forward.
Well, what about New Orleans and the Falcons? All right, brighter days for either of those organizations. Saints fall to 2-9 at home. They're 1-5 in the Superdome. Falcons do get a little bit of consistency. They get 24 points. They only give up 10. They got 5 sacks yesterday. And Kirk Cousins, congratulations to him. I think it's 290. Forgive me if I can't remember the number, but he ties Johnny Unitas for number 17 overall in NFL history. Congratulations, and I mean that sincerely. It takes a lot of good things happening in your life to be able to catch, the high top man. And we'll start with you, Brian. I know we've been hard on the Falcons all year, but much needed win, and you can just see it, the emotion on the sideline, as well as the players on the field. They were really having fun. especially in the second half when they pretty much controlled everything and they just stymied the offensive mindset of everything that New Orleans was trying to do.
A lot of credit to their front four. The Falcons' front four has been really, really good. The draft choices with Pierce and Walker have really panned out. I know a lot of people are really hard on them because they don't own their pick next year, right? And it's not looking like they're going to win a lot of football games. And I'm sure the LA Rams are incredibly excited. They're going to potentially pick in the top 10 again with how well they're doing. But
yeah, they can win a Super Bowl and get a top 10 pick.
Top 10 pick. Yeah. But I think everything panned out as intended with the front four. The defense is good enough to keep them in games, and they've been in just about every single game. Ironically, the only one they weren't in was the game at Carolina where they got shut out and they got absolutely trounced. But, two teams coming in doing some soul searching, right? The Saints, they don't really know what they are right now. They got a mix of vets that they're not sure what they're going to do with. They got a young quarterback, a rookie who's coming in. He's a little older. He's in college for 7 years, I believe he was. But, he's looked better week in and week out. Had some struggles this week, but the story of the game was the Saints couldn't score inside the 5-yard line. They had the ball inside the 5-yard line twice and came away with 0 points. They missed 2 field goals. They had every opportunity to be in this thing, but the Falcons stood pat. They played some good defense. Credit to Kirk Cousins, like you said, coming in. Asked for a trade realistically a couple weeks ago, was looking to get out, another chance to, maybe find a home and play some more football. Luck would have it. Michael Penix unfortunately gets hurt and he gets a chance to go, and he looked pretty good. The offense looked pretty fluid. The Falcons were able to move the football without Drake London, who's arguably their second best player behind Bijan Robinson. And it's always good if you're a Falcons fan to go on a road and beat the New Orleans Saints.
Joey, your thoughts? There's still a long way to go before they're in a wild card conversation, but 4-7 certainly was a step in the right direction after a 5-game losing streak. Give me your thoughts here on this one.
Well, I'll start with the Saints because I think the Saints are almost in a total rebuild, to be quite honest with you. I mean, like Slough, like you said, he was a 7-year guy. He actually played not too bad in the game. He was the leading rusher and passer in the game. That tells you that they really can't run the ball right now. Defensively, they're struggling at a lot of positions. They brought in a kicker, Justin Tucker, for a workout today. So that'll be interesting if they sign him, which I would assume that they probably will if they brought him in for a workout. I'm assuming he's going to be all right. And after coming back from the 10-game suspension, and that's another topic for another day. But they're almost in a total rebuild. So they're preparing for next year. They're looking to see who on that roster is worthy of coming back. They have some veterans on the defensive line who they may let retire or trade or waive or what have you. But they're in a total rebuild. So the Falcons were in a position where, New Orleans was going to battle for as long as they could. But talent-wise, even with the players out, the Falcons had much more talent and should have won the game convincingly. And to Kirk Cousins' credit, he did some good things in the game. He's a true professional, and they were able to come out of this with a win.
4-7, Atlanta goes to the Superdome, one of the longest rivals, not just in football, but from a regional standpoint, it's gone on for decades. Saints are 2-9. The next game we're going to look at, folks, the third of our 3 overtime games. Jacksonville ends up with a nice win. Guys, we talked about the Arizona Cardinals and how close some of their losses have been. Another 3-pointer right now. They were tied at 24 going into overtime. Cardinals just struggling with the ability to just figure out a way to win. They found a way to lose all these close ones. And Jacksonville ends up coming away with a much-needed win and an ability to stay in the hunt and be relevant. Joey, we'll start with you. Jacksonville, 27-24. It took 5 quarters for them to come away with this one, but nice win on the road for them, wasn't it?
It was a win. I'm still not super impressed with Lawrence at quarterback. I mean, he did some good things. He made some plays when he absolutely needed to, but he made a lot of mistakes during the game. Running the ball, ATN looked pretty good at times, really running the ball. He got them out of a lot of holes running the ball. He's not only does he have some speed, but he plays with a lot of physicality at times too. So those are some of the things you like. Arizona, they just keep finding ways to lose. I mean, they threw for a lot of yards. Jacoby Brissett, he I think he only had one touchdown, but he threw for a ton of yards. They keep finding. Actually, Wilson is playing better than their first round pick, who's still hurt, has played. So that's a interesting dynamic, and they really don't run the ball very well. So Arizona is they're playing like the bridesmaid and never the bride right now. But Jacksonville, I'm just not sold on Jacksonville. Again, I think Jacksonville's Super Bowl was when they beat Kansas City at home, and they really have been kind of helter-skelter since then.
Well, Brian, there are a lot of things, if I'm Arizona, that I'm just scratching my head going, just one or two things. If we just had a little bit better pass rush, if we just had a little bit better play from the secondary, if we just a little better at our running game, it'd be a different season. But you know what? In a division as tough as this one is right now, it's tough every week. So give me your thoughts here on Arizona before you go to Jacksonville.
Well, I mean, they're in the same boat as the Chiefs. Almost every game is a one-score game. They got blown out by Seattle a couple weeks ago, and there've been a couple games where they're just outmatched. The San Francisco one comes to mind as well. But this team could very easily have 7 wins right now if you were to flip the script on a couple of these games. And I think it's just, unfortunately for them, the losing has become a habit, right? They're doing the same things over and over again, and they're second guessing, and they just, regardless of what buttons they push late in the game, they can't quite figure it out. And but it's interesting, both of these teams, Joey, I don't know if you agree with this, but I think realistically, this might be a circumstance where both of these teams are kind of moving on from their quarterbacks in the offseason, because I don't know if Arizona's comfortable with Kyler Murray at this point. Trevor Lawrence will have 3 touchdowns, then 3 interceptions like he did on Sunday. There's flashes, but in certain instances, in big moments, it seems like the quarterback play just kind of they're holding both these teams back a little bit, right? And I think, with the Cardinals especially, because you got Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson's been tremendous. Trey McBride might be the best receiving tight end in football. He's been outstanding for them.
Absolutely.
And I will say this: they don't have a ton of talent. I think their best 2 players on defense, the Cardinals, that is, are Calais Campbell, who's almost 40, and Budda Baker, who's been doing it for a long time. But offensively, the numbers just weren't great. I mean, Jacoby Brissett's been plugging in and very, very good, right? It's a lot of playing from behind, but the numbers look good. I kind of agree with what you're saying to go to the flip side with Jacksonville. I'm not sold on Trevor Lawrence. I think the defense is tremendous. I think they have the ability to run the ball, but the turnovers have to cut back. They should have beat the Cardinals by 2 or 3 scores. Trevor Lawrence was a lot of mistakes, some missed throws, not just the interceptions, kept Arizona in it. But 2 football teams, so I'll say this: they're not playing nearly as good as they're capable of. Arizona, unfortunately, that was 3-8. The Jaguars, they're finding ways to win. They're not playing their best football, and Lawrence isn't playing all that well, but they're just, every week they're kind of finding ways to win.
So quick question before you go in, Harper. Let's play a little hypothetical here. If Jacoby Brissett were playing for Jacksonville, what would be Jacksonville's record? I'm not sure they wouldn't be a little better football team.
Probably about the same. Yeah, they're probably about the same. I think maybe they might have another game or 2, but he's been great. I think he's playing his way into a job next year, right? A team that's going to need maybe a bridge quarterback or an injury or whatever happens. But I think Jacoby's been fantastic.
Interesting thoughts, and that'll lead into the offseason. But before we go there, let's go to one of the much watch, need to see, must see, whatever you want to call it. Philadelphia goes to Dallas. Guys, this was 21-0 at one point. Joe, I start with you. Cowboys just kind of fight a little bit, scratch a little bit. They got a big play special teams wise where they get a turnover at about the 10 or 11 yard line on one of the best special teams plays I've seen in years. They went over it about 2 or 3 times, but a fumble knocked the ball out. They scored just a few moments later. Cowboys with a nice win here. 24-21 is the final. Eagles fall to 8-3. Cowboys are 5-1. They're not really relevant, are they, Joey? But at least they're making it fun, and they're pulling rabbits out of their hat at times when they absolutely need to.
Well, I'll start with the Cowboys because they won the game, and I have to give them credit. They found a way in the second half to do everything they needed to do to come back and win the game. Dak Prescott played really well for them. They capitalized on the Eagles' mistakes, and the Eagles had a multitude of mistakes, and I'm not sure the special teams coach shouldn't be fired for allowing a punt returner to catch the freaking ball at the 1 yard line and trying to return it when it was clearly going to go in the end zone. I don't know in what world that's acceptable. However, Dallas did the things to win defensively. The Dallas picked it up in the second half, and all those pieces that they brought in actually looked pretty good together. And then Pickens, I'm gonna go on record and saying that Pickens is the number one receiver for the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb is either 1B or number 2. Not saying that he's not a number one receiver for a team, because he is. He's a number one receiver. It's just Pickens is better. I think Pickens got better body control. He's got better hands, because I think CD's dropped like 7 balls in the last 2 or 3 games.
Yeah,
and I think Dak trusts him a little more right now than he trusts CD, since CD's been back from injury. So I got to give Dallas credit for doing the right things. And defensively, those 2 guys up front, especially the kid that they got from the Jets, they're a handful.
Yeah.
And then in a minute we'll talk about the Eagles. That offense, that's a whole different animal right there. But I'm gonna give the Dallas Cowboys credit for staying in the game when they were down 21-0 and coming back and making a historic comeback and winning the game with the help of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, Brian, George Pickens, we spoke a little bit yesterday. He was basically run out of town in Pittsburgh in 9 receptions, 146 yards. He had a touchdown, and he earned the respect of Joey Clinkscales yesterday, as well as some other weeks. But those are some big things. And Dak had a 354-yard game, 2 TDs in the air. He rushed for 1. Not a bad day for Dak. I know that people can be real hard on him, but when he plays well, I think he's a real difference maker for the organization.
You know, he's been consistent the whole time. Dak has been an absolute gem for this organization, because it's the opposite of what we're saying with like the Jaguars with the Cardinals, right? They've had consistency at quarterback for a long time. And realistically, I think the Cowboys were kind of, if you flip the records of these 2 teams, I think Dak Prescott would be right there in the MVP conversation. His numbers are really, really good. You know, if you remember, I think give a lot of credit to George Pickens, because he comes into a situation. There's rumors, you know, whatever happened in Pittsburgh happened, but to come to a new organization, and it's Dallas, right? The cameras are everywhere. The media's all over you. And he had an opportunity early in the year when CeeDee Lamb gets in the, I think it was a high ankle sprain. He missed almost a month. And whatever rapport that Dak and Pickens kind of, you know, figured out, it's still carrying over, because he's been effective over the middle, the fade routes in the red zone. It's just been, he's been tremendous. He's been a godsend for this Cowboys organization. And, you know, we dogged them a lot for the Micah Parsons trade, but what that's allowed them to do is they bring in Quinnen Williams for the Jets. They bring in, I believe they have Jadeveon Clowney. They brought him in because they needed some help on the outside. They can pay George Pickens. They can do a lot of these things, which they couldn't have done with Micah. I don't know if it's the right decision yet, obviously, and Micah's a great player, but Dallas kind of has it all figured out right now, and they're trending in the right direction. They started off very poorly, but this is a huge win for them, right? A win in the division. It keeps them alive. It keeps their playoff chances alive. And, you know, like Joey mentioned, the Eagles on the flip side of this thing, you know, if it's not one thing, it's the other. Jalen Hurts was actually really good on Sunday. The numbers were there. A.J. Brown got his catches. Devontae Smith was good. But Saquon Barkley had 22 yards rushing. They couldn't get anything going on the ground. And when they needed plays late in the game, they couldn't do anything. And kudos to the Cowboys defense for stepping up and making plays.
Guys, is there something wrong with the Eagles' offensive line, or is that just Saquon and the line and the play calling just it was bad against a team that really played well defensively?
I think it's something wrong with the offensive line. I mean, they've been struggling all year, and I think they continue to struggle.
Yeah,
especially as run blockers now.
Yeah. They're not moving people, are they? They are not moving guys.
It's I was watching that game. I was watching another game yesterday. The Raider and Cleveland game, and if you count 1001 and froze, if you count 1001 on the snap and froze the TV, you'd see 3 to 4 people on the opposite side of the line of scrimmage. So by the time the quarterback turns around and hand the running back to the ball, he's already got 3 defenders that he's got to avoid before he can get back to the line of scrimmage. That happened in this game. It happened in the Raiders game when because the Raiders couldn't run the ball. I'm looking at Ashton Genty, and you wonder what's going on there. And Geno Smith, every time he drops back, he's avoiding everybody because, you know, they have no movement on the line of scrimmage.
I screamed at my television and threw a sock. I'm not going to throw a brick at my TV. They're too expensive anymore. But I threw a real fluffy piece of cotton at it. When I watched probably 7 or 8 years ago, Brian, it could have been a little bit longer than that. Stone was the name of the center for the Falcons. He missed Darnold, or it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who he missed. Matt Ryan had not handed the ball off to Michael Turner yet, and Matt was tackled. He got tackled in the backfield before he could hand the ball off. And I go, that's got to change right now. It's not like that in Philadelphia, and they're still 8-3. But Brian, real quick, what needs to be mended most urgently with the Eagles' offense?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because they're still winning football games, and they could have won on Sunday if not for that special teams gaffe. That was, I mean, really, that was a huge play in that game. That was a difference.
They didn't score for 2.5 quarters, and you can't have that on a championship team.
It's I think they're really when you get your first 15, right? Your scripted plays out of the way, and you have to make adjustments, and you have to say, okay, well, they kind of know what we're doing. They've seen enough film, whatever. We got to beat guys one-on-one. I don't know if there's just not a trust there because, like, Joey, I don't know if you see it. There's not a lot of – they don't take a lot of deep shots in this offense, right? There's one or two throws a game where they'll give Devontae Smith a chance, but it's just there's not a lot of fluidity to it. I don't think the ability for Saquon, and he's probably tired, right? He had a ton of carries last year, and I'm sure he's not 100% because nobody is. And the offensive line is 100% right now, but – to go from what they were last year to Saquon had 10 carries for 22 yards in this game. It was, I mean, it's a complete 180. They look lost out there at times. It's bad.
I've seen better creativity in 7-on-7 football than I see in the Eagles offense. I mean, it's really it's a really pedestrian level offense. I mean, there's no movement. There's very little motion. You know exactly where the receivers are going to be on the snap of the ball. You can defensively, you can scheme, you can bait the quarterback into throwing the ball short rather than long. I mean, there aren't any levels to this offense that gives you hope that they can stretch the field vertically without being lucky or getting a pass interference or just you don't see them winning one-on-one.
Yeah,
they aren't winning one-on-one battles on the outside.
Yep.
But guys, they're still 8-3. They're this number 2 seed in the NFC right now. What are you guys talking about? I also see them getting booed off the field at home if they're ahead. I saw it. I heard it. It happened to me when I was in Philadelphia. Very fickle fans, I'll
just say this: when AJ was mad and not catching the ball, they were winning. He goes for 110 yards and they lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Doug Peterson wins the Super Bowl 2 years later. He's on the street. So we'll figure this one out one way, shape, or form. Last game we're going to look at, best team in the NFC, the one that supplanted Philadelphia. That's your Los Angeles Rams. They're 5-1 at home. They're 9-2 overall. They just dominated early and often. Baker gets hurt. He has an MRI on his shoulder today. Weird injury. I thought he fell on it when I first read about it because I didn't see the play itself. I go, hey, what happened to him? Teddy Bridgewater comes in, and Teddy will probably start next week. It looks like it's very fragile in terms of Baker, but Tampa's just injured like crazy. Lots of guys are hurt. Now that their quarterback, their toughest guy on the field, is down along with a weaker offensive line, no running backs. Their top receivers are all on IR or they're mending and trying to come back. Just a tough road to hoe, Joey, first and foremost for the Tampa. But the Rams look good. They look very consistent. And I want to say this one thing. Brian, you were talking about rapport earlier. The little fade route from the 2-yard line to Devontae Adams was spectacular to me because it had been rehearsed and it had been practiced and they had been working on it. The reason I know is when they come back from the commercial break after the score, Stafford's doing stuff like this to go, I was trying to put just enough arc on this thing, and he threw to a spot. Devontae was there. They are hitting on all cylinders. Joey, let me start with you. I talk too much.
Well, I'll say this. What Devontae lacks in top-end speed, which he doesn't really have anymore, he's got great feet. And what I mean by that, at the line of scrimmage, if you step up in his face and try to press him, he easily gets off. I mean, he's got great feet, and he's able to catch the fade. He's able to catch anything outside. He'll come inside, he'll make tough catches, and when you play zone, he's smart enough to know what his areas are, and he's got great feet on the sideline. But Matthew Stafford is, unless something happens between now and the end of the season, will be the MVP of this league. I mean, right now, he's got 27 touchdown passes,
30
touchdown passes, and like 2 interceptions. Yep. I mean, it's right now he's beginning to run away with this thing. Yeah. If we're being quite honest with you, but again, they play great football, but the defense is what's carrying the day. I mean, this game really wasn't close after like the second quarter. No. I mean, because the Rams dominated this game physically. Their defense did, and offensively, they did most of the things they wanted to do. So while the score was 34-7, which you think is a real dominant performance, it was probably even more dominant than the score indicates.
Yeah.
Brian, Tampa rushes for 123, but they before he got taken out of the ball game with the injury, Baker only had 41 yards. Bridgewater had 62, but with the sacks, each one of them was sacked 2 times, and that's part of the Ram defense, just putting pressure on some guys and making it very difficult for them to get their passing game going. 70 yards in a playoff atmosphere, you're not going to win a ball game with that.
No. And I'll say this: the Rams don't have a lot of household names on defense, but if you're a Rams fan, you know who these guys are, right? If you're a scout, if you watch these guys in college, and just everything that they were able to do with this defense has been, stupendous. Because remember, they lost one of the best football players of all time up front, Aaron Donald, 2 seasons ago, and their front four, they haven't missed a beat, and that's no disrespect to Aaron. They've been that good up front. They've been able to, a lot of it's scheme, a lot of it's coaching, but they're plugging and playing guys. They're bringing guys in off the street. Nate Landman, the guy they got from Atlanta, who's almost a practice squad guy, has been tremendous for them. He's making a ton of tackles. He's flying all over the field. Matthew Stafford has 2 interceptions on the year. That helps a lot. He's 42nd among qualifying quarterbacks. He's not even in the top 32. There's 41 guys that he's better than right now as far as interceptions are concerned, as far as turning the ball over. The Rams haven't done it, right? They had 1 key turnover against the Niners, I believe it was, on Thursday night. Otherwise, this team is 10-1 right now. They're very easily a blocked field goal away from being undefeated as well. They're dominating teams. Tampa Bay could have been healthy. You could have brought guys back from the 2000 Bucks. I don't think it would have mattered. The Rams are just that good. They're physically dominating. They're efficient. They can run the ball when they need to, but their intermediate stuff, Puka Nacua, Colby Parkinson has been a tremendous addition to this passing attack. Yes. And then when they get in the red zone, they don't even have to run it. That feed route that you mentioned, they run to Devontae Adams. And watching that replay, he puts his hands up just when the ball's there, right? So the DB whose turn, he can't see it. He doesn't know. He's trying to read. He's trying to react, but there's no time. And just the timing, it's perfect. Stafford's been doing it forever. McVay knows that. They're in sync, right? It's like they're sharing the kids when they get in trouble at Christmas time. They're sharing a sweater together, right? They're on the same wavelength. It's like they're the same person. It's fun to watch, and right now I wouldn't be surprised. This Rams team's got to be the Super Bowl favorite.
Well, yeah. Devontae kind of went to quarterback heaven. I mean, just think about it. He went to Aaron Rodgers was throwing that to him for a long time. Yep. He went to Carr, and that was okay a little bit until they traded Carr, and then he goes. He comes here to Matthew Stafford, and he feels reborn, because the same thing he was doing in Green Bay, he can do here with the short passes and catching the ball over the shoulder, and it just makes it look really easy.
Yep.
Yeah, they're dissecting things right now. They're really breaking stuff down, and they're weeks ahead of everybody else in terms of where they need to be and what they're doing today to be where they need to be tomorrow. Real quick, let's look at the standings, guys. AFC East, it's the Patriots with 10-2. Bills are 7-4. In the North, it's they're right there. Baltimore at 6-5. Pittsburgh 6-5. They are tied. 3-8. Cincinnati. We can talk about them and the Browns. Technically, they're out of it. AFC South. Indianapolis is 8-3. Jacksonville is 7-4. Houston is 6-5. They're just 2 behind. They had a bye this week, but in the AFC West, Denver Broncos are 9-2. The Chargers are 7-4. Chiefs are 6-5. They are 3 games behind where the Broncos are. But the biggest thing they're trying to do right now is maintain a wild card position. Eagles are 8-3. Cowboys are 5-1 in the NFC East. In the North, it's the Chicago Bears 8-3. Green Bay Packers at 7-3-1, and Detroit Lions at 7-4. What a logjam it is up there. In the South, Tampa Bay at 6-5. Carolina is 6-6. Falcons at 4-7. Falcons have an outside chance. They're going to have to win it all in order to maintain any type of playoff hopes. And then just an amazing division, the NFC West. Rams are 9-2. Seahawks are 8-3. 49ers are 8-4. So 49ers have a bye coming up here pretty soon. But guys, any thoughts here before we go? I know a show a little bit longer than what we normally would do, but last impressions here for week 12 here in the NFL. Joey,
well, I will say this. I would say defense was the ruler of the day for the most part this week. And every time we think 1 week is going to be a letdown, that week shows up. And I think the Thanksgiving Day games are going to be fantastic as well. I will say this. I think that the Patriots are the biggest surprise. Again, you go from a team that's a 3 or 4 win team to a 10-win team right now who I don't think Buffalo can catch them. I think the Patriots are going to win the NFC East. I'm not sure Buffalo's playing well enough to catch them at this point. So that, to me, that will be the biggest surprise, despite what Chicago's doing. I think that's been a surprise as well, and what Indianapolis is doing has been a surprise. But if I had to put my finger on one team right now, and I'm not saying they're going to go far in the playoffs, but I don't think Buffalo can catch them. I think Buffalo will end up being a wild card and not the winner of the division.
Brian, thoughts from you?
It's what Joey's saying. It's kind of interesting to year to year, right? It's so hard to win consistently in the NFL, but kind of the opposite is true. Like it's hard to go from being a really bad team to being a good team, and you're seeing like the Patriots are at the forefront of that, right? You're seeing a lot of I'll throw the Broncos in there too. I know it's kind of a 2-year project, right, with Sean Payton, but they had a bye this week. We didn't really talk about them, but man, where they were 2 years ago with the Russell Wilson situation and the picks and all the money on the books, and they didn't have any talent whatsoever. And now to be right there with the Patriots at the top of the AFC, there's a lot of parity in the league, right? And it makes it enjoyable, it makes it interesting, and that's why it's so difficult to maintain and stay on top of the game. But a lot of really good games on Thursday. I think we got a Friday night game as well. So a lot of good football coming up this week. We're in the home stretch. We're about a month.
If I just add one more thing, I would say this: what we're seeing now, especially from this point on through the rest of the season, is when coaching really matters. I think that's why you see some coaches being let go this time of year, obviously with bad records. I think coaching really matters, and I think that's what you're seeing in Chicago. That's obviously what you're seeing with the Patriots. That's what you're seeing in a lot of different places. But coaching matters, especially this time of year.
Yeah, you're going to practice on the field a lot less. You're going to mentally get a lot more reps where you can and where you need to. And the weather is still it's surprisingly warm here, guys. It hasn't really turned cold yet. So we haven't really seen those games where you look at the outside weather and go, this is going to be a clear-cut advantage for one team or another. We're not quite there yet. But for Thanksgiving, let's just look real quick. Packers and Lions, that's at 1 o'clock Eastern. The 4:30 game Eastern will be the Chiefs at the Cowboys. Normally the Chiefs over the past couple of years, they've hosted a Thursday Thanksgiving game. But the Bengals and the Ravens will be that 8:20 game. Brian is correct. Friday, there's a 3 o'clock game, Bears at Eagles. So early start there on Friday. And as we know, it's college rivalry week. So there's a lot of games on Friday and Saturday. But then Sunday, your regular programming, there'll be a few less games. But Monday night will be Giants at Patriots. And we will be with you for our show at the end of that game. It should be about 11 or 11:30 Eastern time. So for everybody, hey, we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. Give thanks and be grateful for your family and your friends and all the people that are important in your life. Take a few moments to get in touch with some folks that you may not have spoken to in a while, and just let them know what they mean to you. For Joey Clinkscales, General Manager, Personnel Director, former player, savant, and for Brian LeBel, our NFL and college analyst, I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you staying up late with us to watch the NFL wrap-up show for week number 12.